Hi, my name is Matt Norman, and I'm doing this source evaluation presentation sample as a part of my CIMT 543. This is Project 2 on revamping presentations, and the purpose of this is to provide a sample for my students who might complete a source evaluation presentation in their composition classes, the classes that I teach at Vincennes University. I teach Composition 1, Composition 2, and also honors level composition, and this could be used in any of those courses as students complete their annotated bibliography assignments. So it'd be a great opportunity for them to share their process so that other students can learn maybe different approaches or ways to look at articles, different things to find to assess whether or not they are credible. So I think it's a really interesting opportunity, and this assignment has been really useful for me to just think about this and try this out. I'm going to go through this sample in the very authentic voice, as authentic as I possibly can. I'm going to be an English education major at VU, and we have that major at VU, so it's a good fit, and just kind of go through this project as if I were completing this and then over an article in that topic area. Here we go. So to start off with the summary of the project, the assignment is a long research paper, focus of my choice, and the focus I've gone with my research question: do reflection activities help students to write better? The article I've chosen, the title is Environmental, Cognitive, and Metacognitive Influences on Text Revision, Assessing the Evidence. The analysis tool I'm going to use is the CRAP test, which can be found in a lot of different places around the internet, on a lot of Writing Center web pages. It's a fairly common tool for composition classes, and in this case it's actually found in our Vincennes University Writer's Handbook, published in there. That's what we use in all of our English classes. And the 5 different things that you look for with the CRAP test are the currency of the article, the relevance of the article, the authority found within the article, the accuracy of the article's content, and the purpose of the article. And in looking at all those, that helps to make an overall determination whether or not the source is usable and useful in a research project. To start off with currency, the article has a bit of a currency issue. To be honest, it is quite old. It is 22 years old, and that could be, in certain projects, an automatic disqualification for this source. In this case, it's possible to maybe still use it just because the purposes of the article are not necessarily to be like really cutting edge. The article has a lot of emphasis on just assimilating sources and studies and things like that that have been compiled over the last couple of decades before that. With that said, it's still not a great sign. It might be something that if the other criteria do not work out very well, that might mean that this source should not be used because it is 22 years old. But in this case, with the topic about educational psychology, about metacognition, of course metacognition has been studied for many decades, and there are new strategies and techniques, but this one is not necessarily about talking about new techniques. It's more like studying the research that's been done beforehand, so it might still be useful despite the relative old nature of the text. In terms of relevance, here's a quote from early on in the article where it talks about the metacognitive aspect, and metacognition, of course, is very much related to my research question about reflection, and the little quote here makes it pretty clear that they found some evidence. Metacognitive development has been documented for many memory and thinking skills, which generally confirms the prediction that they mentioned previously in the essay about metacognition and metacognitive instruction helping students to learn better. But then they ask the question, it's the question that they're going to spend the next several pages attempting to answer through a pretty extensive literature review. They just ask, but is the prediction correct for understanding of writing and revising? So it's very relevant to my topic. Will reflection help students to write better? Well, this very much talks into that with an emphasis on the revision part especially, which is an important part of the writing process. So very good relevance for that. In terms of authority, it comes from very credible sources. It's published in the Educational Psychology Review, which is a journal, a scholarly journal that is housed on the JSTOR database, which are both really good signs. And then the authors, there's not a lot of information provided for them, but on the first page, their university affiliations are mentioned, and two of them come from the University of Washington, one of them comes from the University of Memphis, and specifically it is mentioned for Earl Butterfield that he is his contact information comes from the College of Education at the University of Washington. So that's a clear sign of his affiliation with obviously a very credible office or division within the University of Washington. So those are all very good signs just from those little hints at credibility. In terms of accuracy, there are a lot of good elements that show that these authors are trying to be very accurate with their information. The majority of the article is an extensive literature review of other research covering these different elements of kind of cognitive thinking, environmental factors, metacognitive influences, and how that affects revision. I don't need all of that, but even just the idea that they're being so specific about every aspect of those criteria, those factors, is such a good sign. One key thing that I think is really interesting to point out, you do not see this necessarily in every article that you find online, is that the references page actually starts on page 290 of the article and goes for about 8 pages all the way to the end of 297. And you can see even just in the quick screen grabs that I've got here, the majority of those are coming from other scholarly journals, the Historical Foundations of Educational Psychology, Complex Problem Solving, Principles and Mechanisms. So we're getting a lot of book-based sources, and we're getting articles that come from scholarly databases. A lot of really good signs that they're trying to be very accurate with tons of references spread throughout the article. In terms of the purpose, they're really clear about their purpose at the beginning. We suggest investigations to increase understanding and revision and to promote integration of research and theory about reading and writing. They're not trying to necessarily solve anything. They're just trying their best to posit new ideas by assimilating, synthesizing all the different research that's been done before in order to just continue the scope of investigation and study into reading and writing. So again, it's not like they're trying to sell anything. They're not hawking some sort of product or anything like that. There is perhaps some bias just in the nature that they are educators and they want to learn new strategies or skills or theories for how to reach students better, and there's always a little bit of pressure to publish in those ways, but overall it seems like they're coming at it from a very objective viewpoint. So the purpose would rate very, very high, as do most of the other categories. In fact, putting it all together, here's what I come up with. Apologies if my water pump just made a lot of noise there. But in terms of the currency, again, that's probably the worst element. It's published 22 years ago. However, the other elements are very strong. It's very relevant to the topic because it's about metacognitive influences on text revision, and that's what my project is asking about. It's published in a scholarly journal, so the authority is pretty good, and it's written by university-affiliated authors, so that's a very good sign for their level of credentialing. Accuracy, it's very thoroughly researched. There are citations on every single page and every single paragraph. Pretty much every other line includes a citation. And then the purpose is just to better understand the connection between these various factors and student revision, strategies and effectiveness, which again fits very well into my project and shows that they're not trying to sell anything. So overall, the currency is a little bit concerning. So it wouldn't necessarily be like a slam dunk. This is the ultimate decider in like making any sort of like strong arguments or claims, but in combination with other sources, I could see it being a very credible and useful source, just based off of the strength of the other four categories. If I could find something that maybe builds off of that research, maybe even better, but if not, I think there's probably still a couple of good passages, since it is kind of synthesizing all these different ideas together. It would probably be a good source to use for a research project in the composition classes. Thank you for your time, and I hope that was illuminating.